Every romance anime season feels the same. A new show comes out with a ridiculously long title, everyone calls it good, and then 2 months later, everyone moves on to the next thing, right? That's kind of exactly what I expected with I Made Friends with the Second Prettiest Girl in My Class. The title screams generic light novel romance, quiet guy, popular girl, high school setting. We've all seen it a bajillion times before. But after finishing the series, I realized something. This anime didn't become one of the biggest romance surprises of the year because it reinvented the genre. I believe it became popular because it remembered something that a lot of modern romance anime have forgotten. Sometimes less is more. Before I get into it, I don't think this series is perfect. It doesn't rely on huge emotional twists or massive plot developments every episode. Instead, it focuses on something much simpler. Two people slowly becoming important to one another. And somehow, I think that's surprisingly rare in the romance scene nowadays. So today, I want to talk about 4 things this anime does better than most romance animes nowadays. The first point I would like to talk about is that the anime respects your time. One of my biggest frustrations with romance anime today is that so many of them are terrified of making progress. You'll watch all the episodes only to end up exactly where you started off. The characters clearly like each other, but then someone overhears have a conversation, or someone trips into another girl, or they spend 3 episodes refusing to explain a misunderstanding that could have been solved in 30 seconds. It feels less like natural storytelling and more like the writers hitting the pause button because they're scared of moving the relationship forward. Second Prettiest Girl doesn't completely avoid drama, but it never lets the drama become the entire point of the story. Instead, it actually lets Maki and Umi spend time together. They talk, they joke around, they text, they hang out. Their friendship develops naturally instead of constantly resetting after every single episode. And I know that might sound like the bare minimum, but honestly, that's exactly why I think it works. This in return leads to what I think is the show's biggest strength, and that is the characters' chemistry together. A lot of romance anime mistake attraction for chemistry. Just because 2 characters blush every 5 minutes doesn't automatically make me believe they're meant to be together. Real chemistry comes from comfort. It's the little conversations, the awkward pauses, the inside jokes, the feeling that these 2 people actually enjoy spending time together, even when nothing important is actually happening. This anime does that perfectly. This is exactly where the anime shines. Maki and Umi don't need every interaction to end with some over-the-top romantic moment. Sometimes they're just talking about their day. Sometimes they're just watching movies. Sometimes they're just existing in the same space. Those scenes might not sound exciting on paper, but they're exactly what makes the relationship believable. By the time the emotional moments arrive, you've already bought into their connection because you've watched it grow naturally. The romance doesn't feel forced, it feels earned. The next thing I want to talk about is the main heroine, right? And rom-coms or romances in general are really defined by the main heroine. They really are made up from the main heroine. And thankfully, Umi is a fantastic main heroine. One comparison I would like to make is Chizuru from Rent-A-Girlfriend. Before you get on me, you guys already know my opinions on Chizuru, so I'm not going to explain them. But I do think comparing them shows why Umi is so easy to root for. My biggest issue with Chizuru is that after hundreds of chapters and episodes, it often feels like she's constantly still putting emotional walls between herself and Kasya. Every time it seems like the relationship is about to move forward, something happens that pushes everything back to square one. Umi is almost kind of the complete opposite. She doesn't spend the entire series hiding how she feels just to create more drama. When she's happy, she's happy. She shows it. When she's embarrassed, she lets herself be embarrassed. When she wants to spend time with Maki, she actually makes the effort to spend time with Maki. Okay, you gotta appreciate that. The willingness to meet him halfway makes every interaction feel genuine. I believe Umi is one of the most refreshing romance heroines we've gotten in a while. She isn't written as this flawless dream girl who the dude just wants to get with or whatever, right? She's popular, but popularity isn't her entire personality. She's confident, but she still has moments where she's unsure of herself. She's kind without feeling unrealistically perfect. And maybe my favorite part is that she actually feels approachable. She talks like a normal teenager. She laughs. She teases Maki. She has hobbies. She feels like someone who exists outside of the actual anime. I think that's what a lot of romance anime struggle with today. Too many heroines only exist when the protagonist is on screen. Umi actually feels like she has her own life and she has her own story and her own personality outside of Maki. She feels like she can stand alone as a character. The next thing we'll talk about is our protagonist, which is Maki. And I know I said I'll talk about 4 things, but just imagine this Umi and Maki section as like a character section, if you get what I'm saying. Of course, as great as Umi is, this romance wouldn't work if Maki wasn't a good protagonist. And I think that's another area where this series really kind of surprised me a little bit. Because if you watched enough romance anime, you know the stereotype. The main character is painfully dense, has almost no confidence, panics every time a girl says hello to him, and somehow still ends up surrounded by some of the most attractive girls in the school. I think we've all seen that before. After a while, those protagonists start to blend together. Maki? He's a little bit different. What I like most about him is that he feels like a normal teenager. He's introverted, but he's not socially like, he's able to keep a conversation at minimum. He's reserved, but he isn't emotionless. He isn't constantly putting himself down or acting like he doesn't deserve happiness, all that bullshit that you know. I think the biggest thing with Maki is that instead of basically feeling like a loser or whatever, he feels like someone who's simply comfortable keeping a small circle and living a quiet life. That makes his relationship with Umi feel a little bit more earned rather than forced. He doesn't win her over because he's secretly the coolest guy in the school or because the plot bends over backwards to make her fall for him. He wins her over by being reliable, thoughtful, and genuine. And honestly, those qualities are a lot more interesting to me at least than watching another protagonist stumble into romance by accident. More importantly, Maki actually contributes to the relationship. He listens, he pays attention, he opens up, dude. He's just a good guy. But I think that's what makes the chemistry between him and Umi so enjoyable. Neither one feels like they're carrying the show by themselves. They make each other better characters, and I think that's a sign of truly well-written romance. The best relationships aren't built around one amazing character dragging another along. They're built around 2 characters who naturally bring out the best in each other. And finally, for my last part, and I think the biggest lesson this series shows overall, is that the show understands what romance is. I think this show is just really great at being consistent. You don't fall in love with someone because one dramatic thing happens. You fall in love because of hundreds of tiny moments that slowly build that bond between people, right? I think this show is really good at doing that. It's really what the anime captures the best, honestly. Instead of chasing bigger twists every episode, it slows itself down. It lets conversations breathe. It lets silence exist. It allows ordinary moments to become memorable. Ironically, by doing less like that, it ends up feeling way better in the end. Realistically, Second Prettiest Girl doesn't really do a lot, but I think that's why it's so good. It doesn't really try hard to impress you. It kind of just like lets it just feels so free a little bit. It feels so relaxed. In the end, I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class probably isn't going to completely redefine the entire romance genre. But honestly, I don't think it needs to. What makes this series special isn't some revolutionary concept. It's the execution. It respects its time, it respects its characters, it respects its audience, and most importantly, it understands that romance isn't about endlessly delaying progress or creating drama for the sake of drama. Sometimes the best love stories are simply about watching 2 people slowly become each other's favorite person. If more romance anime remembered that, I think we'd talk about the genre a whole lot differently. But what do you guys think? Did I Made Friends with the Second Prettiest Girl in My Class become one of your favorite romance anime this year? Or do you think I'm giving it a little bit too much credit? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all that shit. And I'll see all of you in the next video, bro. Take care.